red, white, and bloviating. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. The choice to get on. The mandate. You get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. We love that about you. Good day, Gina Grad.
Good day to you.
And Baldwin. More wieners for me, bitches. So, Phil, the lab, is not feeling well.
I'm going to be very distracted today.
Phil is convalescing in the entry hall there, trying to sleep off whatever he ate. Phil, I've told you guys in the past his commitment to yacking on carpeted areas and ignoring hardwood and tile altogether.
It's sort of, he's an artist when it comes to that.
Yeah, this is canvas.
He and also when he gets sick, Phil yacking is kind of like SoCal earthquakes. They only hit between 3:30 a.m. and 5:15 a.m. Those are the yacking hours.
Right.
So much like with the earthquake, you're kind of disoriented. Like, what do I hear? What's going? It wakes you up. Phil yacked about 6 times. He was staying with me in Malibu. He was able to hit both bathroom mats.
Nice. Good. Yeah.
One's under each sink. He got both of those.
Nice.
He got the mat that is by the edge of my bed when I climb in, like to wipe my tootsies down.
Yeah.
And when I was walking him out to the backyard, after he yacked on everything, he hit the small mat at the top of the stairs. Then
He has a type.
at some point he was in the living room and there's like a sliding French door and he started to yak on the mat. Now, it's a sea of tile and then this one little mat. So I ran up to him and tried to pull the mat out from under him, and I wrestled it away from him, and he made a beeline for the carpet where the sofa was. Like, he held it until he could get to the sofa carpet, and then I pushed him away, and he ended up just yakking on the tile.
Why is that more appealing to him? He's obviously doing it on purpose.
He then oh yes, this is not a coincidence. I brought him here, and I said, I'm driving Lynette's new space-age Tesla with the big gull wings because they're out of town, and my car's on the fritz, and it's a long story, but I'm driving that thing around, and it's a brand new car. I don't know, it's $100,000 or something.
Boy.
Hey, come on, how about a new mat, huh?
Yeah, and it's brand new. So
Couple of new mats.
I get out of the. Phil's in the back. I'm driving him over here, just praying he will not yak in the brand new car. But he just got done yakking in the living room, and now we're leaving. So if we can hold it for 54 minutes, we'll make it. I popped the scissor door, the gull wing door, the wing door. I don't know, Tesla doesn't call it a gull wing, like a falcon wing.
For the rest of us,
something.
is it like a DeLorean?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yes. I pop it. I pull Phil out. I trot around. I'm in such a fluster and a hurry, I don't shut the door. I just pop it open, pull Phil out. I got 1,000,010 things to do. I say to everybody, Phil's yakking. And he's looking for fabric. He's taking fucking names and kicking ass with this fabric. Now he's booting all the time. So keep him outside. Keep him outside. Give him a bowl of water. Keep him outside. I'm going to run to their shop or run back. We got to do 10 podcasts. I run to their shop. I come back. I'm out in the parking lot. Where's Phil? I can't find him. Did he get out? Did he follow me out? No, I checked to make sure he didn't walk out the gate. I go look around the dog run, ironically, see if he's convalescing. No Phil to be found.
Uh-oh.
Where the hell is Phil?
Is he a planter of some sort?
No. He got back into the Tesla.
Of course.
And so I said to Chris, oh shit, he's in the Tesla. Okay, get him out of the Tesla. And Chris goes, he yacked in the Tesla. He was in a parking lot that's, 55 by 80 feet. He went back into the car and yacked in the car.
Hey, come on, how about a new mat, huh?
You got to get that bad boy detailed.
Then
now.
I dragged him out and I said, I don't know. He's not good. I feel bad him being outside and everything, but he's booting everywhere. I just let him in. It's nothing but vinyl tile here. Keep the door slider shut. Don't let him come into the office with the carpet. He's going to yak in there. Ran to the other shop, came back. He had booted on the floor mat. He'd found the one piece of carpeted material in the entire place.
Hey, come on, how about a new mat, huh?
He booted on that. He's thrown up like 11 times, and it's all been on carpeted material. And my condo is all tile with the exception of a couple bath mats and literally just one small rug under the sofa. He's found it all.
Wow.
He's found it all.
All that shit's got to go when he's sick.
Oh, my God.
I was just sitting out there. I opened the door, and he popped his head up, and I thought, oh, sweet, Phil's here. The tail starts. He starts breathing. And then when he usually comes and fucking bum rushes me, he puts his head back down on the tile.
Yes.
It was depressing.
Yeah, so he's not feeling it today. So the problem is I'm busy as shit. So hopefully Olga's coming in half an hour and she's going to pick him up, and somehow she understands Phil, so she'll take him to the vet, or she
This is
won't,
not
or
a good time to kick him in the ribs.
She'll make him rice or something. For some reason. Rice isn't good for you, but it is for
It's
a
a
dog.
good, sponge.
Yeah.
Soaks up the liquids.
So they'll do that. On another note, I'm a car enthusiast.
Oh, you don't say.
And I like the Porsches. And I was walking down to the beach to meet my daughter and all her friends on 4th of July. And I passed a Porsche, very nice, new, I don't know, hybrid, whatever.
Not hard to do out there.
$150,000 car. And someone had done that thing that I hadn't seen. It's a part of my childhood where they go, wash me,
Yeah.
with the finger
good.
on.
Yeah.
Well, wash me has come a long way. A long way. Like once I would see a lot of wash me written with finger and dust and dirt on the tailgate of a truck or a car. And then once in a while you see a little profanity, a little something. This was no words, just a
pictogram.
Just a picture you guys can
Hieroglyphic.
describe. I took a picture of the hood.
Oh,
I was
God.
thinking and hoping there'd be a dick.
This is no.
Wow.
A dick would have been child's play. This is a very detailed dick and hairy balls connected.
It's 3 foot by 3 foot.
It's
not.
huge.
It's not small.
Connected to like a torso that is spewing semen into the open and awaiting mouth of a bald person.
First of all, the
Brian.
bald hey. I would say the open and eager mouth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
eager for sure. Wow.
I mean, Jimmy used to like to draw a cock on things every
Right.
once in a while. I get that. But the cock exploding in a bukkake storm onto the open and eager and tongue out mouth
Yeah, eager.
of an eager hood ornament. I don't know. Have we just jumped the shark here now, people?
In Malibu.
I think they've upped their game.
How quaint was Wash Me compared to this triple X-rated Bobby Hollander approved jizz fest that's on the hood of
a. This. He would think this is too disgusting.
Yeah, this is not appropriate.
Untold word.
I'm all for stuff like this, and if I walk by it, I'd never stop laughing. But now that there's a kid with me, how do you explain this? Like, it's a...
Oh, that tree's exploding with sap.
That's right.
And that Canadian loves his maple. Like, I don't know how you spin
He's
it.
just down to stack of pancakes, and like, these will sure were dry.
It is a giant head with a giant dick exploding. And by the way, you should know the dick is 9 inches from the mouth, so you can see the trajectory of the semen, the arc of the semen
Bellagio-esque.
hitting the person in the face.
It is erupting. And I love that specifically hairy balls.
I would like to track down this individual, this artist. This Banksy or Yanksy, if you will.
well done.
And I'd like to
Cranksy.
really take a deep dive into the psyche. Like, are you the funniest guy alive? Or should we put you on a red flag watch list? Like, what's next for you?
It's not a stick figure. Like, it's somebody with a little bit of chops.
I think as a supportive parent, I could go, I know Seth MacFarlane.
Right.
Maybe we could take this
you up.
Yeah.
and sort of steer it into some more creative endeavor that involved less semen.
The larger than average nose indicates this person has a little flair.
Right.
Yeah.
As an artist.
Yeah, caricature. Wow.
Yeah, one day when I'm retired, I'm just going to make mini docs about, all right, here's what we got. Now, I need all the Ring doorbell footage from the houses to the east and to the west. I need records of employment.
You're going to go full
employees that came in
Dateline.
and out. Like, I would like to really
Fingerprint analysis.
Yeah.
crack this case wide open. All right. Oliver Bullough is on. He's got a book out called Butler to the World, How Britain Helps the World's Worst People Launder Money, Commit Crimes, and Get Away with Anything. I've talked to a few people in the know, Oliver, and I've heard some of this talk recently. What do we need to know?
Well, good evening. Good. I'm not quite sure what
Hi
time
there.
it is where you are, but it's evening where I am. Well, I suppose the most important point is that everyone needs to put away the stereotype that a lot of non-British people have of British people as kind of respectable Downton Abbey types, that we're all, well-mannered and well-behaved and perhaps if we have a fault, it's that we're just a little bit sarcastic. All of that is just an act. Really, what's going on is that for the last 50 or 60 years, we've been running an extremely profitable shadow operation, not just moving the money of the worst people in the world, but laundering their reputations, educating their children, selling them houses, letting them break the law. And basically, we've transformed this country into the world's great enabler of financial crime, wherever you may find it. And this has been pretty awful, really. It's been pretty profitable for people in this country, but the impact for the rest of the world has been pretty negative. Where you are over in the United States, this has led to obviously pretty significant levels of tax dodging by your wealthy people and corporations. For the residents of places like Russia or Nigeria, Angola, it's essentially allowed their governments to transform themselves into kind of mafia clans with a bit of constitutional authority attached, to just loot their territories and stash the money in, real estate and bling in West London. So it's a pretty grim situation, to be honest. And I'm sorry to, break it to you in such a, downbeat way.
Well, going to now current times, we put a bunch of sanctions on Putin and oligarchs, and we're going to drive down the price of Russian oil and so on and so forth. And I heard recently the ruble's up. So how do our sanctions work? Is it something that's effective? And what is it supposed to do, and what does it actually do?
Yeah, so Russia's ruling elite likes to present itself as this kind of 19th century, pure Orthodox Christian gang who are determined to make Russia great again. But that's all nonsense. Essentially, what they're doing is stealing everything they can and shipping it out the country as fast as they can. Russia is the only major country for whom more than half of all national wealth is outside the country. A lot of it's in London, a lot of it's in, New York, a lot of it's in France, Switzerland, wherever, anywhere that's not Russia, because, as soon as they get it outside Russia, it's safe. So the idea behind sanctioning all these oligarchs is essentially to freeze all that wealth, to try and change that calculation. They thought that their money would be safe outside of Russia, and say, well, actually, no, it's not going to be safe. And that's good in as far as it goes. But, in a way, Putin doesn't really care about that, because he can take anything he wants anyway. So he doesn't. The reason why they were moving their money out of Russia was to essentially keep it safe from Putin. So if their wealth outside Russia is frozen, then he doesn't really care. He'll just take what they have inside Russia. He's perfectly happy wherever it is. As for the question about the ruble, well, the ruble is up in the sense that you can't really do anything with it. So it's up in the sense that the Chinese yuan is up. It's not really a convertible currency anymore. So that sort of calculation doesn't really mean anything. Putin is still earning lots of money from selling oil and gas to Europeans, but he can't really do anything with the money he's earning. So it's just piling up. And in the circumstances, it would be weird if the ruble wasn't going up. But since he can't really buy anything with it anyway, because we've closed his markets to all the stuff he wants, there's sort of high-tech goodies that he could use to resupply his army. It doesn't really mean anything. I mean, the sanctions have been bad for the oligarchs, but from Putin's perspective, he doesn't care.
Is there a situation, I don't know anything about world finance, but I do know a lot about psychology. And I have this theory on a kind of micro level that performers like Ellen and Bill Cosby do a lot of dancing at the beginning of their show and then turn out to be horrible people. And I think there's a kind of smoke and mirror, like, oh, come on, that guy with the pastel sweater doing the dancing.
He's so likable.
He's not roofing any 22-year-olds and dropping digits on them. England, and you sort of said this at the beginning, the UK, like they have this, from Buckingham Palace, and there's the Queen, and look at all the pomp and circumstance. Do you think they keep a lot of that? Are they working to kind of keep this veneer of proper this and that so we don't pay attention? Like, you go to some of these, you see the Somalian warlord, and you see that guy, and you go, he's up to no good.
Yeah.
But we're in the U.S. We'd never say, it's like, oh, Spice Girls and Fergie.
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant. That's all we got. We never think about the seedy underbelly.
Yeah, well, but the point is, this isn't a facade, right? This is literally what we're selling. It's all part of the same thing. We're essentially transforming oligarchs into aristocrats. We're the Downton Abbey dream, the remains of the day dream. That those big houses with the butlers and the housekeepers and the influential people coming to dinner to talk about world affairs. That's what you can buy. It doesn't take long if you're a wealthy Russian and you come over here. I mean, not right now, but in the good old days before February, you could come over to the UK, buy yourself a big house, get some politicians on the payroll. You'll be integrated into the British establishment in 3 or 4 years. Though it's no longer a welcoming environment for Russians for obvious reasons, it's still perfectly welcoming to oligarchs from any other country. You can be a wealthy Angolan or Malaysian or Chinese individual, and you can come over here and buy some property and integrate straight up. So the image of Britain as the kind of place of boarding schools and Harry Potter and and the changing of the guard and all that nonsense. That's what's for sale. We're essentially putting it on display. And if you prepare to pony up the entrance price, then you get access to all of that.
Damn. You mentioned among one of the countries that the oligarchs were attempting to hide their treasures, their goodies in, was Switzerland. And my thought was, is England sort of becoming the new Switzerland? We always think about Swiss bank accounts and how things are always done there because there are things you can get around. And that's sort of in every movie and every story. That's where we think everything gets stashed and where they're the most maybe friendly working outside the lines. Has England sort of taken over that role? Yeah,
I mean, no disrespect to the Swiss who work hard and make good chocolate and clocks and everything, but,
and lace.
But they don't really have a patch on us. They don't have a patch on us when it comes to moving illicit wealth. There's not much you can do in Switzerland. They'll put your money in a hole in the ground and charge you a big fee for looking after it. But they don't really do much beyond that. If you're an oligarch, I mean, just to briefly advertise my own country here, but if you're an oligarch and you come to the UK, there's so much more you can do with your money. We're not just a wealth hiding service. We'll do that, but we're a big wealth management service. We've got huge markets where you can spend your money on, fine art or bling or top end houses. We can educate your children. We've got very generous tax treatment. We've got an incredibly restrictive defamation law, meaning it's very hard for journalists to write about anyone. Britain is the full package. The only place really comes close to the UK when it is offering services to oligarchs is the US. But the US has this one great, huge downside, no disrespect. But you have the FBI who actually investigate crimes.
Disrespect
we don't
taken.
have that. Mm-hmm. So, we don't, we have law enforcement agencies, but they don't have any money or people. So essentially, if you bring your money here, then it's safe. I mean, there was this amazing moment just after the sanctions had been imposed on Oleg Deripaska, who's one of the many wealthy Russian gentlemen who's been sanctioned in the last few months. And he has several properties in London. And one of the properties his family owned was on Belgrave Square, which is one of the ritziest addresses anywhere in London. And it got squatted by a group of 4 anarchists. It should be said, they were very well-behaved anarchists. They were just sitting on the balcony, waving their feet in the air and singing silly songs. And, the police came in force to try and stop them. There were dozens of police officers, and they'd come with special equipment and cranes to try and get the anarchists off the balcony. And, it was a farcical operation, because anytime they got the crane near them, the anarchists would just shuffle down to the other end of the balcony, and they'd have to take the crane down and start again. But it was very funny to watch. But what was particularly amazing about it, really, just sort of as it was zooming back a bit, was that as soon as these 4 ineffectual anarchists threatened this property in a very minor way, there were dozens of police officers there to defend it. But as far as I know, no police officers ever investigated the origin of the money that bought the property in the first place. This is a guy who's noted for having got ahead in Russia back in the 1990s when, business practices were pretty lax. He's a guy who'd previously been sanctioned in the United States. He wasn't unknown to Western law enforcement. And yet he was operating perfectly happily and openly in broad daylight in Britain. And even after he'd been sanctioned, if his property was threatened by 4 disreputable anarchists, the full might of the Metropolitan Police went down to protect it. So that's what you get if you put your money here. Seriously, there's nowhere better.
I don't know how much you know about Putin. There's a lot of speculation about he's ill, he's got tremors, he may not be here for long. Who would replace him? Nobody knows. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, I was reading a piece in the French magazine, French newspaper Le Monde last month, actually earlier this month, I think it was, that Putin now has a special person who has to travel with him if ever he leaves the country or goes anywhere inside Russia to gather up his excrement and put it in a special bag and repatriate it to the Kremlin to make sure no one is able to analyze it to see whether Putin is ill or not.
That's like Kim Jong-un.
That may not be... Well, it may not be true, but it did get me thinking about the world's worst jobs. And, I thought that someone who, I follow after my dog with a little plastic bag, like many people do who walk the dog in the morning. But imagine having to do that for the president of Russia. But I don't know whether that's true or not, but it does suggest that he's playing his cards pretty close to his chest in terms of his personal health. So I think that these rumors are all, like it's a bit like watching a soap opera. Everyone's sort of inventing things. I mean, I have, friends who are very seasoned observers of Russia who've got very good sources who are convinced that Putin is, dying of cancer. But I've had friends who are seasoned observers of Russia who've thought that for 10 years, and Putin is still sadly very much with us. I think, essentially is a degree of wishful thinking that Putin will just die and save us all and someone else will come along who's a bit more reasonable. But I don't think, if it does happen, that would be very welcome, I suppose. But I don't think we should count on it because, he's a pretty clean living guy. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he takes a lot of exercise. So I wouldn't be surprised if we've got to put up with him for a bit longer yet.
Have you been threatened? I mean, with all you know and all you say and all you write about, are you on anyone's list?
I mean, I used to live in Russia. I lived in Russia for many years, working as a journalist, and I got the usual kind of treatment that journalists get in Russia of being, harassed and followed and, shaken down and all that stuff, which was stressful, but also curiously fun because it's a sort of it's quite a direct form of feedback, like normally you maybe get a few rude comments on Twitter, but there's something more impressive about having 9 FSB agents following you around wherever you go in 3 different cars. It really makes you feel like you've got on someone's nerves. Since then, now my problems are more with lawyers, to be honest. I live in the UK and I do get legal letters from our very well remunerated legal professionals to point out that I've said something rude about someone and I need to retract it. Fortunately, that doesn't normally lead to anything, though it is extremely annoying to know that a lawyer has probably been paid more money to write one letter than I got paid, to write an entire article, which took me months. But that's just the nature of lawyers. So I try and just ignore that and carry on. I'm all right, to be honest. But I have friends and colleagues who work in Ukraine and Azerbaijan and lots of other countries who have spent time in jail or had their houses burnt down or been assaulted and everything. So, most of the time I'm just pretty strongly aware of how lucky I am, to be able to do the work I do in a place where I'm pretty safe.
Let's talk about the news outlets. It's funny that I hear more here about, let's say, there's more stories about Hunter Biden from English publications than there are from American. I mean, USA Today is not discussing Hunter Biden and whatever he was up to, and CNN isn't, and neither's ABC, and neither's the Los Angeles Times, New York Times, but a lot of stuff comes out of England, which is sort of interesting.
Yeah, I need to slightly apologize for that, because I slightly set that fox running many years ago, totally accidentally. I wasn't writing about him. I was writing about this guy, Mykola Zlochevsky, who employed him. And I just sort of happened to mention him in the article. And
Are
so
we talking about Hunter Biden? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. So, Mykola Zlochevsky, who was a Ukrainian oligarch who employed Hunter Biden or put him on the board of his gas company back in 2014. I was one of the first people to write about that. So I owe everyone a bit of an apology, really, because I think we've all got very bored of hearing about Hunter Biden. I don't quite know what the obsession is with talking about him, to be honest. And you're right, there are certain newspapers here who do like to write a lot about him, but then, they write all kinds of nonsense, and they're probably best ignored. There's a strange journalistic culture, particularly in tabloids here, which is, to treat the whole world as a soap opera and just report on it accordingly.
But they're not doing any real boots on the ground work on the oligarchs and UK as you describe it, or are they?
No, not as a rule. I mean, very occasionally they'll get their teeth into a story and really shake it and see and do all sorts of amazing stuff. But it's very unusual. Most of the time, their real investigative efforts go into trying to figure out which football star is, having sex with which football star's wife or whatever. They can really, put a lot of people on those kind of stories. But when it comes to actually figuring out where the money's going and who's doing what, politically, then sadly that not much of that goes on, which is a disappointment, because they're pretty good journalists. And if only they were pointed in the right direction, then who knows what they could uncover.
Is public interest kind of waning in the royals, or is that still something people are totally interested in?
I don't think that's ever going to wane. No, I don't think it ever will. I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, who knows what happens when the Queen moves on, because obviously that will be a major end of an era. But, the sort of Prince Andrew story, I think, is going to run and run. Mm-hmm. And then the sort of Harry and Meghan story is going to run and run. I don't think that anyone's going to lose interest in that anytime soon. I mean, that's like a perfect tabloid story, right? There's no... It's pretty inconsequential, and yet you can sort of keep going on about it every day, and they can't really punch back because they don't really punch back as a rule. So it's that's the perfect story. Though I mean, it has been, there are aspects of the kind of story I like to do in that various members of the royal family have spent time with rather seedy people with ex-Soviet fortunes, which always makes me pleased when that happens, because it's something that I can write about, but I don't tend to get too much involved in the royal family, I have to confess.
Just curious off of that, Boris Johnson seems to be sort of somebody that his party is looking to dump and might try again next summer. How he seems to us, or to me, like kind of a rube, not really like a major player. Is that accurate? Or in terms of a link to Russia, like does he do anything, or is he kind of his own figurehead?
He's a strange person. I mean, it's been a revelation today. I didn't even know we had this many government ministers. They've just been resigning one after another. Yeah. I suppose I thought we maybe had 10 or 12 or something, but I think we've had like 30 something have resigned so far, and he's still there. So presumably he must have more, otherwise he wouldn't be able to run a government. That's been quite a revelation to me. But he's still there. He's still clinging on by his fingernails. Heaven knows why, because it must be so humiliating to see all these people coming out and saying that they don't like him. I would say, though, very, very slightly to his credit, because I don't have very much good to say about him. He was he was pretty good early on in supporting the Ukrainians. He was one of the first Western leaders to send them weapons, and along with the White House, obviously, was very open about the fact that Putin was intending to attack Ukraine, even when, like, France and Germany were insisting that he wasn't. So, that may not have been him. That may have been his defense secretary who was doing that. But still, it was quite good. And I know a lot of people, mates of mine in Ukraine, are very grateful to him for that, which is always weird for me to have a chat with them, because I think he's a moron. and never does anything good at all. And they say, no, he sent us all this great weaponry. It's really good. If it wasn't for that, we'd be in real trouble. So it is a slightly odd thing to think that I suppose they say that even a stop clock tells the right time twice a day. And, Boris Johnson has, if nothing else, been good at that.
The name of the book is Butler to the World, How Britain Helps the World's Worst People Launder Money, Commit Crimes, and Get Away with Anything. It's available.
It's a how-to book.
Yeah, exactly.
As we speak.
Yeah.
It is available on Amazon or wherever you find finer books. Oliver Bullough, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. Interesting.
Interesting.
Sad. It just kind of strikes me that, even though we have it in Ukraine, but we're kind of rounding the bend on societal, real kind of boots on the ground, and everything's just financial now.
Right.
Just China
Moving money around.
moving money around.
But you know what? If you watch enough movies, and I'm sure Brian can attest, better that than like chemical warfare,
Yeah, well, for us, yeah.
Let's think about it.
I agree, and it's the problem with money is it's kind of like sex in that it's just no one's really immune to it. Like I always, when they do this thing where they go, we saw him, getting off of the private jet of this billionaire pedophile or whatever. I'm always like, you ask me, you say I can catch a ride in your private jet. I don't really ask questions about your lifestyle. Right. This isn't an endorsement of your lifestyle.
What goes on when you land this jet?
But
yes.
I will make your point and then shit on your point simultaneously because we haven't talked about this at all. And if you want to, I can bring it tomorrow. But let's talk about that in terms of is it Saudi Arabia? Their new golf league that gave Phil Mickelson $200 million to participate. He's like, I don't condone what they do and they're fine. Shut up. But plenty of people said, fuck you, it's not worth it. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, again, we can all sit around and kind of do the holier than thou thing.
$200 million.
But
You don't have Phil's gambling debts.
That's right.
If somebody starts talking about cutting you a check for $200 million, look, it's whatever, the NBA does with China. It's there's just so much money. People can look the other way on the transgressions morally.
No problem.
All right, let me hit Simply Safe. Today's episode is brought to you by Simply Safe Home Security. We believe home should be the safest place on earth for every family. I use it and I recommend it to everyone I know. There's 2 I's in Simply Safe, by the way. Also, the stuff's compact. It looks good. It's very ergonomic, easy to set up. You can do it on your own. You don't have to hire a technician to come in and drill holes and pull wires. 24/7 professional monitoring. Simply Safe's agents dispatch police or first responders the moment a threat is detected, even if you're not home or can't be reached. $1 a day, no long-term contract. Named Best Home Security of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report. 3rd year in a row. And you can customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/Adam. Go there today. Get a free indoor, security camera plus 20% off with interactive monitoring at simplysafe.com/Adam. All right, quick break. We'll do the news. Gina Carano, one-on-one in the next segment. Hold on. Chris needs some ball pullers in Springfield.
Yeah, if you're coming out to our Springfield shows, want to pull Adam's balls, send an email to questions@adamcarolla.com with ball puller Springfield in the subject line and a little bit about yourself.
All right. So that'll be coming up 15th, 16th. What do you got, Gina?
Well, we have more information, of course. I'm sure it'll be coming out little by little every day about this dipshit in Chicago that killed all those people at the Highland Park Parade. So he has been charged with 7 counts of first-degree murder related to the death of the victims. Because we had originally said 6, now a 7th has died. The New York Times reports that the victims range in age from 8 years old to 85 years old. Authorities believe that the suspect spent weeks planning the shooting spree, and it's not the first time he's been in trouble with the law. Back in April 2019, a family member did tell police that this guy had planned to, quote, kill everyone. At the time, the police took 16 knives, a dagger, and a sword from him, but he wasn't charged in that incident. But I guess that's sort of the red flag law working? I mean, they took his stuff at the
Do
time.
we know? Oh, sorry about that. Do we know after that he acquired his weapon?
He apparently acquired it legally, so maybe it was a step in the right direction, but it didn't go far enough, obviously.
Yeah.
And then he had, when I said yesterday that he had put on women's clothing to blend in, that was specifically to blend in as the chaos ensued, as everyone was running away.
Well, to me, there goes the insanity defense. Like if you were shrewd enough to bring ladies' clothing with you and plan that out, we do. Well, of course he's nuts. Look at the crime he committed. And I would go, I'll agree with that. But also he's very functional and capable if he planned out and was able to bring women's clothing.
Yeah.
I've been hearing more and more, and it's kind of interesting, about pot and marijuana and just how prevalent it is with a lot of these cases. We don't really. So we're a weird society. So what we do is we go, there's a shooting, and then we go red flag laws, and we go gun control, and we go, we got to harden targets. We got to get those school doors locked or whatever it is. We have like three, like a pitchfork.
Pragmatic.
We got to pick our 3 lanes. No one talks about the copious amounts of weed a lot of these guys have been smoking from a very young age, and other pharmaceuticals that they're on as well. And like I heard Alex Berenson, who's a Substack guy now, he got booted off Twitter, and I think he just got brought back, and maybe he sued and maybe they settled or whatever. He was kind of early money on COVID. He was early money on weed and teenage boys and like psychosis and violence. Yes.
Yeah,
we've talked to him a couple times. He wrote a book, I think, in 2019, because I believe his wife was a neuroclinical psychologist or something like that. And she started saying to him, he was a New York Times guy. Weed wasn't his beat, but his wife kept saying, I'm talking to all these young males, and they've been smoking a lot of weed and eating a lot of weed, and the weed is not the weed of our youth. It's not the shake and the leaves and stuff. It is the THC level is through the fucking roof. It's super potent. And these guys start smoking when they're 14, and it's a wake and bake type situation. And it's weird because I've always said, there's a lot of mythology around weed. And I always thought, weed, laid back, stoner, pineapple express. But then you think about it, the guys running the streets doing the gangbanging smoke tons and tons of weed and are more than happy to pull out a pistol and just start shooting it out in the streets of Chicago, right? Like and now weed's ubiquitous, and we did some weird thing with weed. It's kind of like the opposite of what we did with cigarettes. Like we demonized cigarettes, and we sort of turned weed into a lifestyle. It became almost like surfing. I always say, like, surfing it's not really a sport. It's kind of a way of life. It's a lifestyle brand. A lot of these guys are smoking tons of weed, have been smoking tons of weed. Alex Berenson was saying years ago, this is fucking with their young, developing brains. Why wouldn't it? By the way, how could you be that altered for that long? I mean, a bong load or an edible of like today's weed will alter you big time. You can do it almost any time. I think we could all agree if someone was at 15 waking up and having a few shots of whiskey before heading out for the day, like that would be no good. There's going to be a weed thing that's going to come of a lot of this stuff. And for some reason, our society was so busy arguing for legalizing and decriminalizing and getting the taxes made off of this crop that we're not really into going after. We're not really going after weed. It's a big element in these cases.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you clarify that it's not the weed of yesteryear, you're absolutely right. And it's fucking crazy. But I'm wondering, like with alcohol, we got those hard and fast rules, 21 and up, baby. And so how do we deal with that? And does it even make a difference? But how do we deal with that in terms of teenage boys?
my feeling is I've always said, and there's also kind of a weird thing. Like we have certain subjects, like well, don't get on the wrong side of weed. Like Alex Berenson did a book on weed being dangerous, and he was pilloried. You know, like it's like I don't know. I'm saying it affects you, it alters you. If we can have all the energy in the world for nicotine, which is completely inert and harmless. Like nicotine's like caffeine. You know, cigarettes are bad for you, but nicotine is not bad for you.
It's the formaldehyde that's added.
Or whatever. There's theories, but the point is we got all the energy in the world to keep the kids off. You know, we're going to get rid of the vaping, and we're going to have a lot of laws, and then it's just a big campaign about this is not sexy and blah blah blah. Going to have to start working weed a little bit because. Weed has a great publicist, and cigarettes do not. But there's going to be some causation thing. There's going to be some links going back to this.
Never ever would have guessed weed would be a cause or an influence in this in any way, but here we are.
Well,
is there data to back this up?
Yeah. There's definitely, I don't know, Chris can look in it. Berenson is not a Johnny come lately. Like when he gets into something, he digs in. And he wrote this book it was probably 3 years ago or 4 years ago or something like that. And so if he's talking about it, he always does his homework
and
on
he's
this
talking
stuff.
specifically about these past shooters.
No, he kind of predates it. I don't know. You can look at it,
did
Chris,
he come back and be like, told you so?
He is. Well, he's saying a lot of young dudes smoking a lot of high octane weed, and they're getting psychotic.
Got it.
And it's dangerous.
Got it.
And that's not one of the elements. We're looking at, gun laws and stuff. But all right, the gun is the tool, but why are these fucking guys psychotic?
Right. And we're talking males 14 to 25, I would imagine.
Yes,
most at risk. It's
basically between pharmaceuticals and weed, a lot of these guys got a lot of shit. I mean, it's I don't know, the old Dr. Drew, no free lunch adage. Like, you're not getting up at 15 and ingesting something and feeling high, and it's not affecting your brain and your development and your functioning. It's impossible. If you're altered, you're altered, and you're spending a lot of time in a state that's altered.
Legitimate question, because I don't know the answer. Is our weed more potent or in some way different than the rest of the weed that's in the rest of the world? Because we're the only ones to be plagued by this.
Interesting.
I don't know. I don't know.
Might not be Go ahead.
I don't know if we consume more than others. I don't know. We should figure out what Jamaica's up to.
Then that would blow out my theory. But my suspicion is it's not the party drug of choice in other countries like it is here. I mean, maybe Amsterdam, but
I'm just looking at amount consumed.
That's what I'm curious too. That's a good question.
The book's from 2019, and it's a published study. Marijuana is more dangerous than you think. As legislation spreads, more Americans are becoming heavy users of cannabis despite its link to violence and mental illness. I'm just saying.
No idea.
It's a funny Dennis Prager thing, but most parents, certainly around here, would be way more upset if their kids smoked cigarettes than smoked weed.
100%.
100%. And I'm saying we fucking got it backwards, people. You would much rather have your kids smoke cigarettes than weed. The book title's called "Tell Your Children the Truth About Marijuana, Mental Illness, and Violence." I think we're going to start seeing it come out.
Interesting.
All right.
Here's a very famous person who claims to have been suffering from something which is either very real or the world's best excuse, and we should all adopt it. If you meet Brad Pitt twice and he doesn't recognize you or remember you, you apparently shouldn't be offended. He's revealed in his new interview with GQ magazine that he's pretty sure he suffers from prosopagnosia, which is face-blindness.
Oh, I want that.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of high amounts of weed.
The condition,
could have something to do with it.
It's believed to be caused by problems with the part of the brain that controls facial perception and memory, rendering those who have it routinely unable to recognize faces that they see more than once. Pitt says that no one believes he has it, and he fears he comes off as aloof and self-absorbed at parties and social gatherings because of it. He hasn't been formally diagnosed, but he's discussed it in the past. He talked about it in 2013 with Esquire, and he worries that people hate him because they think he's basically disrespecting them by kind of like big timing them. Like, who are you again? And that he says, I'd rather stay home than just keep dealing with this.
It could be that he's aloof. It could be that he smokes a ton of weed. It could also be that Brad Pitt probably has more different people coming in and out of his life than all the rest of us combined.
Yeah, but
if he's on a movie set, he's meeting 300 people a day.
But that would be an excuse, or that would be we'd all agree. We'd be like, yeah, we get it. But this guy's like, you don't get it for 10 years, because that's when the first interview came out. He's like, I don't recognize people, and it doesn't behoove me to go out in public anymore.
Were we talking about Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Yeah, you mentioned
I bring that up yesterday. So just to make my point for my clinical diagnoses of this, if you said to me, have you ever interviewed him or met him? I'd go, absolutely not. 100% no. But Gio has to tell me. He was on Love Line. He was a big K-Rock fan. He came on and you guys hit it off.
10 things ahead about
you. It's just the way you can only have, you can memorize, 10 numbers in your phone book. But once you make good friends with 1,500 people, sorry.
You know what I always say when I'm not sure if I've met them before? Instead of it's nice to meet you, whatever, I always say, nice to see you.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I had
It's always nice to see you.
I had to correct that. Yeah, that's what happened with me and Janine Garofalo.
Uh-oh. What did you do to disrespect Janine?
I told her it was nice to meet her, and she told me she'd been on the show 3 times. So I changed it to nice to see you.
There you go. I do that too.
But, yes. Who was, God.
What do you want to know?
The Dodgers first baseman.
Sean Green.
Sean Green.
Going to the game tonight.
Good. Say hi to Sean.
Okay. Oh, yeah. This was uncomfortable.
That was Dumbo Drew. I'm sitting in the other room.
Context.
He's wearing flip-flops and shorts. First of all, I don't know Sean Green. I saw him at Dodger Celebrity All-Star Night or something when he was playing for the Dodgers in a Dodger uniform. And Drew just walked him right out of the studio, and he set him up right in front of me. I was sitting down, and he went, "You remember this guy, right?" And I looked at him.
6'2", skinny, big-eared white guy.
I was like, I went, it was literally, I went, "I'm so sorry. Hold on. No, I don't. Drew, what the fuck? What the fuck are you doing? What do you mean? He's not a friend. I saw him 11 years ago. He was standing next to Tommy Lasorda in a uniform. No, I don't know who he is. You remember him, right?"
I hate to say it, but I know he meant well. Dawson did this to me the other day.
Oh, no.
In the parking lot. He's out there having a conversation after the show. We're all leaving. I'm going to my car. He goes, "Hey, this guy's got a documentary playing tonight at the film festival. You want to go?" Maybe. No. Should I? No. What? No. And he's like, no worries. No, I know you meant well, but it was hey, this guy. And it turns out it was Doug Louch, right?
Yeah.
Sure, buddy. I know fucking idea
defend
where he
himself,
was.
but he's knee deep into a sandwich right now.
It was an afterthought inviting Brian. He walked out while I was inviting Gina.
Said.
So
that's right.
What else are you going to do?
I appreciate it.
And I'm actually glad Brian brought that up because, nothing. Doug won the film festival.
I
And
know.
we really need to have him on to talk about it.
And I do want to see it.
Now Brian asked me, can I get a screener?
I do want to see it.
I'll get right on that, bro.
What sandwich are we eating today? Is it a
homemade shrimp po' boy.
Oh my God. Nice. Save those tails for Maxipata.
NFA, my man.
NFA.
NFA.
Not fucking around.
Yeah.
What?
Did you deep fry it?
How do you do that? Look, first off, a homemade sandwich is fine. Smoked turkey and ham and all that kind of stuff. Most people don't get into the shrimp.
No, this is
on
artisan.
The homemade.
Yeah.
That's nice.
I wanted a sandwich. I opened up my freezer. I saw a bag of shrimp, those frozen shrimps. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm going to have a shrimp sando.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And you got to cook it,
Did you batter it or this is like saute?
You saute in olive oil, butter, and garlic.
Oh, boy.
What kind of bun?
It's a hoagie roll.
Oh, okay.
And what else?
And then, but the trick is on the hoagie roll, you got to grill that with butter.
Yeah.
So then
Toast
you
it up
cut
a
it
little.
open, you toast it with butter.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But then it's just mayo, a little horseradish, salt and pepper,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Sounds
I'm
good.
getting
it's
hungry.
good stuff. I don't have any cayenne though.
No.
I would have brought you
So.
some.
All right, sorry. Where were we, Gina?
Chris just sent me a little link to a Twitter update from both Macy Gray and Bette Midler. So let's give a little moment to that.
I
I think
Now,
you'll be
there's-
pleased with one of them.
There's part of me that realizes the only way out of this chapter we're in is to have everyone go fuck yourself with the apologies, because it works immediately, because you get on it. Here's how I know. I say horrific things all day, every day, and no one has ever asked me to apologize.
Yeah.
That's all. So
They
when
know
the
better.
LA Teachers Union fucks with you, you just fucking clap back at them, and then you get on a list,
Yeah.
and you enter the list of people who don't apologize. And if we can grow that list and shrink the list of apologizers, then we could get through this time.
Out of Bette Midler and Macy Gray, who do you think said fuck off?
It's hard to get a read on Macy Gray because it's hard to tell really what's going on with her. Bette is more fiery, but she's also more woke and cares more.
I can see Bette thinking she made a mistake, whereas Macy was just speaking her mind and even doubled down in the interview. So I say she said fuck off.
Okay.
Who do you have? So you have,
Macy said fuck off.
I'll go the opposite.
Okay. Well, this is the tweet, and I'll reveal who said it. All of you coming on my page threatening me and calling me names just because I said something you don't agree with, be whatever you want to be and fuck off. That is from Macy Gray.
Oh, God bless her.
Bette's reaction was, people of the world, exclamation point. My tweet about women was a response to this fascinating and well-written piece in the New York Times.
Can I fucking say this for a second? I would love, as a owner of a freshly minted, with the new cock and ball smell set of genitalia, I would love to just be a spokesperson for the men of the world. Like these cunts are
You did
all
have
the
a
time.
show called The Man Show.
Hey, ladies, here's what I'm going to say. International spokesperson, because I got a cock and balls, you got a pussy and some fucking areolas. And I just love the fact there's more women on the planet than there are men on the planet. Who are these people we've anointed? Hey, we got the ladies of The View. They're speaking for all the ladies. We got Bette Midler. She speaks for the ladies of the world. Must be fucking
Lorax.
nice.
Yeah.
It's not like it's some small indigenous Indian tribe you belong to. And you go, as a Pepperfoot, my great-grandmother, it's everyone, Bette. Go to a fucking Whole Foods. There's more chicks than there are dudes. We'll go get in a car and look around. You can just speak for the lady. We're under attack or we're going to celebrate. Like, the fuck you think how insanely grandiose it is to sort of like, I speak for, I mean, it's super obnoxious when you're black. It's super obnoxious when you're Latino. It's super obnoxious when you're Asian. It's super obnoxious just to speak for whole groups of humanity. So, God, can we just shut the fuck up?
That'd
Sorry,
be
go
nice.
ahead.
She said, people of the world, my tweet about women was a response to the fascinating and well-written piece in the New York Times on July 3rd. There was no intention of anything exclusionary or transphobic in what I said. It wasn't about that. And the name of the piece was an opinion piece. The far right and far left agree on one thing: women don't count.
The far right
And the far left agree on one thing. Which, so I'm very... my curiosity has been tempted to read this because I'm trying to think I know what the angle is, but how do they get there?
Look, whether you count or not will be up to you and your behavior and your contributions. There's men who don't count. There's men who do count. There's women who don't, women who do. It's all up to you. Not like you don't count
Well
or you
said.
do count. It's fucking go out and do something that's count worthy. All right, one more. We got Gina
Dracula would
Carano,
agree.
who does speak for all women waiting in the wings.
And rightly so. Let's see. Let's do one more. You know what? I've been sitting on this just because whatever, but we had mentioned him a few times in the last week or so. So did you know that Danny Bonaduce had fallen very ill with a mystery illness?
I had heard that.
Yeah, he's getting better. He has a health update. And this bizarre picture of him looking normal is very jarring to me, and I don't like it. We're looking at right now, there's no tight T-shirt, the long hair. He looks like a normal dude, and it's very unnerving.
He looks frail.
Yeah. He'd been suffering from a mystery illness that left him unable to walk and struggling to speak. And now he's returning back to work in Seattle on the radio. In an interview with Good Morning America, he said that his wife noticed he was slurring and speaking gibberish. She said, literally, that's not English. What you're saying is not English. Bonaduce says he underwent tests while in the hospital. He didn't have a stroke, but he didn't get a diagnosis. He says he couldn't walk or keep his balance. And we're looking at a picture with him with a cane. And he was slurring so bad he couldn't remember anything. He left the radio show in April, but has since returned and seems to be recovering from nobody knows.
Well, Danny's an easy guy to make fun of, but he's a good dude.
He is a good dude.
And we're always kind of rooting for him.
Yeah. So if we find out what the hell this was, I'll keep you posted.
All right, let's bring it home.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news. Women don't count. Oh, boy.
Gina Grad.
That was the news with Gina Grad.
Well, badass. Gina Carano, by the way, her fight with Chris Cyborg was they were the first women to headline a major MMA event back. Remember, it was all, are women going to be able to fight? And we're not going, Dana White says never. And now women are all over.
Women don't count.
All over the big,
get that on now.
big cards out there. And of course, who could forget Haywire, but
I loved Haywire.
Fast and Furious 6. Now we're getting somewhere. Probably the best installment of the
she was
the
great
series.
in Deadpool.
Yeah, so we'll talk to Gina, and she's got a new project out with the Daily Wire, and we'll do all that right after this.
The Adam Carolla Show presents Gina Carano's birthday cocktail party for April 16th. Let's see who's here. Let's welcome American aviator, one of the Wright brothers, Wilbur Wright. Charlie Chaplin just showed up. Famous actor, Peter Ustinov. Let's welcome the former Pope, Pope Benedict XVI. Pro Football Hall of Fame cornerback, Dick Night Train Lane. Singer Dusty Springfield is here. The singer for Foghat and Savoy Brown, Lonesome Dave Peverett. Formerly Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is here. Here's the NFL coach with the most Super Bowl wins, Bill Belichick. Comedian Martin Lawrence joins the party. Chance the Rapper is here. And dun-dun, 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 dun-dun. The guy who wrote that, Henry Mancini, he's here. Gina Carano on the Adam Carolla Show.
Good to speak to you, my dear. Terror on the Prairie is the name of the film. It's available for streaming now on dailywire.com. And congratulations, because I know it's been kind of a long journey for you.
Yeah, I feel like I've lived about 10 lifetimes. People talk about high school, and I can't even think, it's like so much has happened in these 40 years of being on Earth.
Well, it's nice. I did some specials on the Daily Wire called Truth Yeller, and it's nice that these outlets are popping up to take people that have been canceled or semi-canceled or sort of canceled by, the HBOs and the Netflix of the world, and there's a place to go to create. Right, yeah. I mean, I look at my cancellation, and I think, gosh, I don't know if it really gets. I think that's one of the most aggressive, uncalled for cancellations that Hollywood has given us, and I think that it's a testament to where we're at in society of being able to coexist with people that agree or don't agree, or just forcing your beliefs off on other people. I just think that. If I'm a problem and if I'm super controversial in this society, then it's a reflection on the times. I hope that, 5 years from now, we'll be able to look back and think, oh my gosh, how ridiculous was that? But, it's pretty
pretty interesting out there right now. Have you been canceled before?
I don't. It's like people say to me, "Have you had COVID?" And I go, "I don't know. I don't know.
I know.
Maybe.
I said
maybe." And then they go, "Have you been canceled?" Probably. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. I've said,
love that.
It's kind of funny because when I started podcasting and just kind of writing books and doing stand-up and, kind of independent stuff, working for my own space and building my own network and building my own studios and everything. Somebody said to me, they went, "Did you see all this coming 14 years ago, like 13 and a half years ago?" And I was quick to answer. I went, "No." And then I went, maybe I did know, maybe I was kind of feeling which way the wind was blowing. I wrote a book 13 years ago called "In 50 Years We'll All Be Chicks." So I must have had some inkling of what was going on. So, yes, am I canceled in many practical ways? Yes, but I'm not really cancelable because I don't work for cowards like Disney.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think that's what's really, really good is, it was a wake up call. I think for a lot of us who haven't been paying attention. I sure wasn't paying attention. I was just so excited to be a part of the Star Wars universe, and my career is finally like going in the right direction. And, I just was, let politics be politics kind of person. And it just really felt like at this point in my life in 2020, I just felt like, wait a second, I'd never voted before, which is not something to be proud of, but I'd never been interested in politics. I pay my taxes and I'll just keep my head down and keep going. And then I started kind of paying attention with the whole COVID scare and what was happening with like the lockdowns. And I just started getting a little bit more vocal. And I had no idea. There was this, I had no idea. It's like the blinders got pulled up and I'm seeing the world for exactly what it is now. And it's a little bit overwhelming.
Well, let's talk about, if you don't mind, and we'll get to the film in a second, but if you don't mind, let's kind of walk us through what happened. And before we get there, let's see if we can psychologically kind of figure out what the cancellation culture is really about. Because here's what I think it's about. It's not so much about you believe this about masks being effective, and I believe that about masks being effective, and you believe this about ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine, and I believe that. Because if it was just that, then that'd be like you saying, I like a hot dog with spicy brown mustard on it. And you go, I like mine with ketchup. And you'd go, all right, well, not for me. But you wouldn't need to be you wouldn't need to be removed from the hot dog stand, right? It'd just be, you believe in this, and I believe in that. Here's what I believe happens. When you say, I'm not for masking kids, or I'm not for school closures, they go, oh, you've tipped your hand. You're Republican. You're one of them. And now you need to be canceled because you're one of them. Now, it confuses the person who's being canceled because they go, all I said was I like mustard on my hot dog. I didn't say anything. No. You said everything. You disagree with us politically. This has nothing to do with hot dogs. And they're fucking cowards, and they don't admit that. So then you keep circling around and talking about this innocuous thing you said, and you go, what's so bad about it? And then you bring up 15 different examples of people they like, bring up things that are much more egregious, and you go, what about them? And they go, oh, well, that was then. No, that's one of us. They're on our team, and we can't say it out loud because it's Hollywood, and we have to pretend like we don't engage in McCarthyism, but we do. So you made a comment, and you tipped your hand, and we found out you're not one of us, and now you must go.
Yeah, and it sure as hell felt like that. When they're calling you, the publicists are calling you, and the first thing they lead with is, this isn't about politics. And I'm like, are you putting your other people, your other actors through this? Are you harassing them? asking them, I mean, really, it's really, really, really ridiculous. Like when you look back at my, offenses, it's really kind of, I can't believe grown ass adults from Lucasfilm were calling me and having these conversations because I put beep, bop, boop in my profile, or because I wasn't for the lockdowns, or because I was questioning the masks, or I was questioning the vaccine. And I just feel like I cannot believe when I look back at the last, year plus of my life that it was just that hateful. I mean, they went on Saturday Night Live and they called me a white supremacist, and they had their whole entire company like taking me off of, toys were just canceled. Nothing that I've done in my life deserved this kind of treatment. And the problem is they do this to someone. They try to make an example out of someone. In my case, they try to make an example out of me. And it scares everybody else from even touching the subjects. And so they've scared a lot of people into silence, and now we're like going into more and more problems because we weren't allowed to have these conversations. So it's just, and you know what, I'm fine. I'm good. Like, I'm not trying to be like, everybody's like, oh, she's playing the victim or the martyr. I'm okay. I knew I was going to be able to handle this, but it's pretty devastating though. Like, fighting 10 years of my life and, acting 10 years and finally getting to have my own show, which they'll say there was no show, but there was 100% a show. I got the call. They said they had okayed the pilot, the first episode, and it was all going to move along. And
so there's 2 seasons on The Mandalorian, and they were going to spin it off into your own vehicle. Your character.
It was going to be Rangers of the New Republic. It was going to be me and a bunch of other people, but I think I was going to be a really big. I had a full, healthy, hearty career. And that's like something that dreams are made of in my business. So
let's kind of go through it. So they told you we're going to spin this off, and your character is going to be one of the main characters in the spin-off.
Yes, I got that phone call. I got the phone call that they'd already okayed the first episode. And my character, she got so much attention, and it was because I was interacting with the fans, I believe. And I also think she was just a cool character. She was a soldier, and we didn't try to lean into anything romantic or anything. She was just, she was just a soldier that was a badass. And finally, we've got a woman that looks like this on, it representing a soldier, and it just fit. So people really enjoyed her.
Yeah. Well, I love these duplicitous assholes because they love a strong woman in a role like you had. And that's great.
Yeah.
Unless you start talking about not wanting to mask a 2-year-old on a commercial flight, and then all of a sudden the strong woman status, isn't that part of being a strong woman? Having opinions? Yeah. Or is it just all about, roundhouse kicks?
Yeah, and it's even more shocking. My co-stars were just as passionate on the other end of things. They were obviously voting for someone else or voting a different way, but they were just as passionate and just as vocal. And actually all of Hollywood for the last 4 years, they've been sending President Trump death messages, death threats over Twitter. So they made this environment, Hollywood made this environment in the last 4 years, just with even Donald Trump alone. Oh, you're allowed to speak to a president this way. You're allowed to be political. You're allowed to take off all your clothes and tell everybody who you're going to vote for. And unless it is that you're coming from somewhere that we don't agree with, and then we're going to take your job, we're going to harass you, we're going to, my agency dropped me at UTA.
They're all such pussies. They're just pussies.
Oh my gosh.
They're fucking coward pussies.
A couple years from now, I think when it's all said and done, there's going to be documentaries made about this time, and we're going to just think, the people of this time. And the problem is they don't even try to make it right.
No.
They know by now how ridiculous this is. They're not trying to make it right. And if you try to make it right, there might be some healing in this world, but it's so arrogant, and it's really kind of
It's so narcissistic, and it's just cowardly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's such weak sauce. Like, as somebody, I don't have your mixed martial arts background, but I come from football, construction, and boxing. I was a boxing coach, you know, and Golden Gloves and stuff like that. When you talk to people that have like worked and sparred and dug ditches and played football and done mixed martial arts and gotten a cage with Cyborg, this stuff sounds like such chicken shit. It's like I marvel at these dudes and what colossal pussies they are. You know what I mean? Like, they're such not. They would have been, you know, any gym you were in, I was in, field, you know, job site. These pussies would have been fucking ran out on rails.
Yeah. And it's like, so nobody that I worked with physically, right? I always got along with everybody I've ever met and shook hands with. I mean, in this business, I give it everything. I show up on time. I know my stuff, and I am totally present for the entire filming process. I speak to everybody on set. I include everyone. I am like a good. I'm a good person to have on a set. So, and there's other people that are really hard to work with, and are saying the same. You know, they're saying some pretty outlandish things on the internet, and because they're on one side of things, it's okay. And so, and that's fine. I don't want to ever shut down anybody else's voice. I feel like everybody can, I don't feel like you sign your rights away to have freedom of speech or an opinion when you sign on to do a project. You know, I do think that, you know, you have to hold responsibility. And if a company doesn't want to do business with you, I understand that as well. But the way they went about it with me is they publicly put it out there that I was like this, at a really bad time, a really dangerous time, to say that I was not tolerant of other races and religions. They basically put my life in danger. And it was just brutal. So I'm glad I went through it, but it just seems like you were saying, it seems like they're hiring a lot of people that don't have any real life experience. Like, maybe they went to college and maybe they did good in college or something, but have they ever had, 10 years of, working in the fight industry, 10 years of working in the comedy industry, 10 years of working in the acting industry? Or did they just, is everybody in Hollywood just that afraid to get old? So they hire these young up and comers with no life experience, and just kids who are really good at judging people and trying to steal people's work. It's disgusting.
Well, the only ray of light in this, in these dark skies looming today, is eventually these 23-year-old pussies start turning on Netflix or the New York Times or whatever the super woke outlet is. They start eating their own eventually, which brings me endless amounts of joy. But for you, so can we just do the timeline for a second, and then we'll move ahead to things in present day. So your Mandalorian's a huge hit. Your character's big and it's popular, and they're going to spin it off. And that's, I've been in show business for a while. When you get that phone call that talks about spinning your thing off and starting a new vehicle for you and stuff, it's the phone call you've dreamt of your whole life. Then what happens? What was the first tweet? What is the first thing that was said?
The first one, I believe, was I didn't know why all these people that had he, him, they, she, her, I didn't know anything about the pronouns. So I didn't know that that's what they were doing. All I knew is, I'd ask the people around me, I'd be like, are a lot of people on Twitter just like really coming out strong? And if you don't say anything, like if you don't say trans rights matter, if you don't put that in your bio, if you don't put that in your, tweet, then they start insinuating that you're transphobic. So there's like this mob mentality of this whole movement of put Black Lives Matter in your bio, put your pronouns in your bio, put like people telling you what to put in your bio nonstop. Like it was so aggressive, and I didn't know what they were saying. So I asked my co-star, and he literally said this. He was like, "Dude, just tweet it out and they'll leave you alone. You'll be fine."
Yeah.
And he has a trans sister. And I was like, well, I'm not just going to like put anything out there. Like, what is the deal? Why is this such an aggressive movement? And so, so then just out of pure rebellion, like with me, I was just like, I'm going to put whatever I want in my bio. And I was watching a UFC card and I asked my boyfriend and I'm like, what should I put in my bio just to let him know, like I can, you know, say anything you want in your bio. It's your bio.
Right.
And I put beep, bop, boop with
those were your pronouns.
Little slashes. Well, I didn't even put it like that. I put it just to say you could just kind of like as a funny, you could put whatever you want in your bio and like all these people. And then there was this meltdown. So that was the first thing.
Why was there a meltdown?
They said that if I would have put one more word and not put the backslashes, they said it looked like I was, you know, that I was attacking trans people. And so I corrected it and I took it out of my bio, which I was going to do anyways. It was going to stay in there very long, but I put out there, I said, listen, this is not towards the trans community. This is towards the people who are bullying people to put things in their bio. This is who this is towards. So I made sure to like let people know who that was towards. And so then I just would boop people with a little GIF. I would just boop people, and you can't get mad at a boop. I don't care. Like it's like the cutest thing ever.
I don't really fully get the bridge between beep, bop, boop to the attack on the trans community.
Because I put it in my bio, and they were trying to make me put pronouns in my bio, and I was like, no, I'm not going to.
So it was formatted like it would have been your pronouns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, for me, it wasn't even that. It was just, I think this is kind of cute and funny. And so this whole meltdown ensued at the Lucasfilm. And they said, you know, you need to get on the phone with our trans community leaders and the LGBTQ. And I was like, okay. Like they're like, we need to have you watch all of these documentaries. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then they were like,
"You're familiar with John Waters? We got a few movies to show you."
And so I'm like, you know, I'm like watching all this stuff. I get on the phone with the trans community, LGBTQ people, and they were like, they're kind of disappointed that I wasn't. They're like, oh, honey, yeah, you just really stepped in a landmine. We're, you know, it's just unfortunate, but. And I actually asked them on that Zoom call. I said, why don't you guys say anything? Like, why don't you guys come out and say, hey, there's a lot of aggression coming out of this, you know, movement on Twitter that's creating a lot of friction and a lot more hate. And I was like, because it seems like it's creating a lot more hate for you. And it doesn't need to be that way, you know? And they said, well, it's not our job. You know, basically it's not our job to tell people how to treat, you know, a vulnerable community. And I was like, well, I just want to let you know, like, it's going to create more harm towards your guys's, your group here. But they were really nice, and they got off the phone and they called Disney and Lucasfilm and said she's a sweetheart, and you know we have no problem with her. And so, and then they tried to do something which I felt was so abusive. They said, you know, we're going to have you and Kathleen Kennedy and 45 other trans people on a Zoom call. 45. So I was like, well, what am I supposed to do on this Zoom call? We were supposed to sit there and listen to everybody's stories. And I'm like, this seems a bit much. I mean, I'm all for listening to people's stories and everything, but 45 people who could have their phones out video recording my Zoom, and the same people that are attacking me and putting up GoFundMes and putting up, just putting up the most slanderous articles of me. And they wanted me to get on the phone. And I said, I'm sorry, that's just too much. I think that's too much. I think that if you would like, I will take out, 5 or 6 of, the leaders in that community or whoever in that community. And I'll go down and I'll sit down with them face to face, and we'll have a dinner. I'll buy them dinner and we'll sit there and we'll talk and I'll listen to them, and it'll be a lot more intimate. But I feel very vulnerable going in front of 45, different people on a Zoom call. And they were like, they made it seem like I was just this difficult person. And I was like, this feels abusive. This feels so abusive. Like, I'm not going to do that. I I'd rather be in person. So that was the whole, I think a very highly mismanaged, they just really mismanaged. And by the way, everybody's kind of like been locked in, and, I feel like these publicists just didn't have anything better to do. So they were just, taking the attention off of Disney and China. And they were like, let's put it on Gina, so like, they're like, let's not pay attention to this. Let's, distract everybody. And like, let's make the Gina Carano versus the trans community, like a huge deal. And it really, there was nothing huge about it. I'm not this person that's like,
it's
I don't
stupid.
hate trans people. I think
let me just jump in and say, part of the biggest problem, there's two things we have to stop doing. We have to stop apologizing, never apologize, done apologizing.
Which I didn't.
But something
it didn't.
Tucker Carlson was interviewing me, and I said this about 5 years ago. I was like, we need to stop saying, I have nothing against the trans community, or like, I have gay friends, or I have black friends. Fuck you. I don't give a shit about the trans community. My point is this. I'm a human being. I've never done anything harmful to another human being, and I've never discriminated against another human being. Now go fuck yourself. Yeah. I don't need to make declarations about how I like black people, or my nanny's Hispanic and I treat her very, it's like, yes, you're fine. The proclamation of in 2022, I'm not against gays or trans or blacks. Yeah. It's even dumb to even have to preface it with that. You're a good person. You're a professional person. I think so. And you pay your fucking taxes. You've never done anything to anybody. So we should just eliminate the part where we preface everything with, I have a black friend. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Just these, because it's playing into these assholes' hands. We're playing in their hand. The answer is fuck off. When they told me, what was it, a year and a half ago, Chris, Black Lives Matter, had to put the black fucking tag up on the Twitter or whatever. What was my answer?
Hell no.
That's right. I don't give a fuck. If everyone did that, by the way, what were you guys more wrong about? Black Lives Matter, school lockdowns, effectiveness of paper masks, effectiveness of the vaccine. You put them in a rank. Put them in order. Tell me which ones you guys fucked up more royally. Is it Black Lives Matter? I don't know. I could make a pretty argument for the effectiveness of vaccines. Oh, what about school closure? You fuck closing down the beaches. You fuck sticks. Tell me which one you fucked up more. And then who should apologize to who?
They closed down the beaches. They closed down the beaches. They didn't let people, and I was right in the center of California when it was all happening. They were wearing masks outside while they're walking, while they're working out. They let them mask their children while they're playing sports.
They bulldozed beach volleyball courts. They took all the nets down and put sand dunes there.
And skateboard
parks. They put the sand in the skateboard parks. These idiots, they're total idiots who should have been shot down from Jump Street, and all the scared, coward, and led by Hollywood, led by the pussies at Disney and all those other colossal pussies out there, just got right in lockstep behind these major fucking retards and followed them right off the fucking cliff like a lemming. And they should be blamed.
Oh my gosh.
They should be punished.
Yeah. And that's the problem, I think, right now is like nobody is being held accountable for these lockdowns. Nobody's being held accountable for what's coming out with children and masking. Nobody's being held accountable. I mean, they're still in the SAG-AFTRA, they're still pushing for mandatory vaccines, which is affecting a lot of our jobs. We can't do a SAG movie without being vaccinated when this vaccine doesn't even do what these people said it was going to do. And a lot of people, I mean, it's just, what the hell happened?
Oh.
What the hell happened?
Let me tell you what colossal pussies these people are. Was it the History Channel that wanted me to do the doc and, on Howard Stern or whatever? I think it was the History Channel, and they were interviewing people for a doc. I'm calling it a doc, retrospective, whatever. They were going to film it in my shop. They were going to film it in my studio, blah, blah, blah. We had it all set up for a Monday. they hit me on Friday and they said, we need a vax card and like a proof of vaccination and a positive COVID test. And I said, fuck off. I just wrote back, fuck off. And then they like wrote back like, what? And I was like, fuck yourself. It's off. Fuck you. Fuck off. And
Love that.
now let me tell you what pussies they are. What fucking colossal spineless pussies all of Tinseltown is.
Wait, isn't History owned by Disney?
I don't know. I gotta know. You can, Chris will look for it. I told them to fuck themselves. So then they came back and went like, oh, no. It's all right. You don't need a vax card. That was for somebody else. And then I wrote back, fuck off. Again. And then they begged 30 more times to do it. And I said, fuck you. I'm not doing it. And don't give me that. That was for somebody else. You guys are such pussies that you first asked for the vax card. And then the bigger colossal pussies, you immediately caved when somebody pushed back. The second I told them to fuck themselves, they came right back with, all right, we don't need a vax card. Well, you don't need it or you do need it? Or are you fucking cowards? Because that's what's going on. Was that an email I sent them, Chris?
I don't have it, I think, but I'll see if I can track it down.
I would frame that. It's great.
I remember I was on an airplane. I was leaving LAX, and I remember my assistant saying, are you sure you want me to send them that? And I said, tell them to fuck themselves. And that was that. It's probably on my phone somewhere, Chris.
I love that.
Sorry. So
do you think that
yes.
Do you think that they kind of enjoy that in a way? I mean, we are talking about Hollywood. They are making movies nonstop about people who do this, like tell them to fuck off and tell them, I mean, do you think internally they all kind of feel a little bit held captive and they're waiting for somebody in their own
I
company
don't
just to say?
These are discussions I have with Dr. Drew all the time. Like, do these idiots believe this, or do they want to be liberated, or what's going on? Like, have they really drank the Kool-Aid, or are they just going along because they want to get along and would be relieved if the wicked witch got a bucket of water dumped on her? I don't know. So they start this with the beep, bop, boop. And that spills into you haven't bowed enough and kissed the ring, and it's all this weird, retarded power play. And then what? Yeah.
They said, well, I was like, well, I'm not going to apologize because I gave a pretty straightforward, I gave them all the evidence, and they really couldn't come back at me. And they're like, okay, well, it's going to be too late for an apology anyways. And I was like, okay, well, I wasn't going to give one. And then I started talking about, we were all, all these protests were happening, and we started talking about BLM. And I was like, well, basically, and I put out a tweet, open up your businesses, open up your churches. Like, if we can be all out there on the streets together, then we can definitely be in churches together. And that was just really odd. People are screaming at cops and spitting on them, and there's riots and there's all this emotion in the streets. And, in my head, I was thinking pandemic looked like people like, zombie apocalypse, and all these people are apparently afraid, but then they're still out on the streets, not afraid whatsoever. And I feel like church and schools and businesses, I come from two families who create a business from scratch. So I know how much and how important it is for these smaller businesses to survive and stay open. And, these are family-owned businesses, a lot of them. So it's like I was really fighting for the smaller businesses. And by saying something unpopular, like, open up your businesses and don't go along with this. Do not comply with this. And so that spawned... that's when I think we started kind of getting into, is she a Republican? Is she going to vote for Trump? We started getting closer to that. And I just was, I would put out like, little memes. I'm not even that controversial. I put out memes and quotes to just make people think, think for yourself. When you look at history and when you look at, the abuse of power, do you really think that 2 weeks to flatten the curve is safe, and here we are at 4 months. What are we doing? Here we are at 8 months. What are we doing? Open up your businesses, get out there. So that's where it started going.
So there was I know, and I loved it when Fauci was like, all gatherings are bad, and then somebody said, what about Black Lives Matter? And he's like, what? What about it? I have no opinions on that. What a fucking coward that guy turned out to be as well. Everyone just turned out,
Well, yeah.
this just exposed us as filled
What
with
was he-
cowards.
You know what really bothered me about Fauci is that when he was confronted about, these lockdowns and these, things, how this could affect mental health and how it's because there's not history of this. It's not like this has not been studied, how this could affect health in the future. And, he would just give a blatant answer of, well, that's not my job to think about that. Yeah. My job is to offer and it's like, it should be your job to think about if you do something and support something as, all the eyeballs are on you, Dr. Fauci. And you're not gonna respond and say, hey, well, historically lockdowns have been damaging and masks didn't really work that well. And, his past with the AIDS vaccine that he tried to force on people. And it's like, I think he's an evil human.
I hate him too.
He's more evil. I wonder what.
I think he's a coward mainly, but 4
shots in and like, what do you think is going to happen with him? Is he just going to disappear and like we're going to catch him in his room with like 4 syringes in his arm? He's like going out like just really believing in his product.
I can tell you that at some point there's going to be a retrospective or a doc or an expose, and it's not going to be kind to him. And but CNN won't give a shit. Those are my 2 predictions. And you're not going to find it on Netflix or HBO.
Do you think?
That's what I think.
Do you think that eventually is there going to be a reckoning of people being held accountable for what they've done to people and to jobs? To not just my job, but like doctors, firefighters, soldiers.
No.
Like people that just, you don't think there's going to be a reckoning?
No, I don't.
They're just going to take their money and kind of cash out.
Who's in charge of the reckoning? You know what I mean? That's kind of the problem.
Well, the people need to be.
Well, people throughout the pandemic were, the pandemic did, I tweeted out, this pandemic has taught me nothing about pandemics. I don't know any more than I did before about pandemics, but I've become an expert on people now, and it's basically devastating. It is so goddamn sad. I know nothing about viruses, but I can see how cowards react, and I see how they consume information, and I can see how they turn on each other. And that was I got a PhD in how humans react, and that's the sad and scary part of this whole chapter.
Oh, wow. That is, that's been devastating. I thought so many times people would be on the streets for different reasons, or just rebelling I thought, oh, you're not going to be able to lock America down. We're not going to get locked down. And man, were those streets so empty. It's so sad.
So
we're dealing with the...
There was a meme or something you sent out that had a reference to Nazi Germany or Holocaust or something in that realm, and that was really the red meat for them. That's really what they glommed onto.
Yeah, that was their. I hadn't heard from them for about a month, so I think they sent out this email accidentally to me. And it said that they were basically tracking the Fire Gina Carano hashtag. So there was this hashtag that was being created by the Lucasfilm employees, not the people that I worked with, but the people that run these websites and are very extremely left-wing. And so they got that trending as much as they could just out of hate. So the Lucasfilm publicist accidentally sent me this email about her and these other people that she was working with, that they were tracking that. Now, they didn't have anything negative to say on the email per se, but the fact that they were tracking it really blows my mind, because you can, you're just going to listen to the mob. You're going to track what the mob is saying online. It was really
it's very Orwellian.
So I just kind of
What did
very Orwellian?
What did I want to know? And this probably the most insidious part of this whole chapter for me is, and I'll tease it a little bit, but I will say, the publicists are just doing what the publicists do, and the trans rights nut jobs are just doing what they do, and Disney's kind of doing what they do. Gavin Newsom is doing what he does. He's an idiot who's drunk with power. Fine, he's doing. What are we doing? Why are we listening to him? Why aren't we going on the beach? And what I'm saying is, and I'll tease it, I want to know if your co-stars and co-workers, I want to know if any, and who stood up and went, hey, I disagree. I may disagree with Gina Carano, but this is bullshit. She's a good person. She's professional. I stand with her. I'll tease that. So I got to hit a spot here. First, I'll tell you about Master Spas. Considering a backyard makeover, wish you had room for a pool? Well, you can get the Michael Phelps Swim Spa by Master Spas. Combines the benefits of a pool with the therapy of a hot tub. Has a water current so you can swim against it. Do aquatic exercises and have fun with the kids. Also, comes in a variety of sizes to complement almost any yard, even a small backyard. And since it's heated, you can use it year round in any climate. Made 100% in the US of A by Master Spas, the world's largest swim spa manufacturer. You'll love your Michael Phelps Swim Spa by Master Spas. Right, Dawson?
Go to masterspas.com, put in the promo code Adam to save $1,000 on a Michael Phelps Swim Spa or $500 on a Master Spas hot tub. That's masterspas.com, promo code Adam.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come right back. We'll see if anyone stood up for Gina Carano right after this. Gina Carano here. A very interesting discussion. The name of the I almost said book, sorry. Name of the movie, Terror on the Prairie. And it's got some favorites in there, especially if you're MMA-minded. Donald Cowboy Cerrone, who unfortunately got choked out last weekend, but always a fan favorite. And he retired and said he's going to Hollywood, which means Nashville these days. And also has Daniel Day-Lewis's son, and I'd like to talk about that for a second. But first, did anyone in the cast of The Mandalorian stand up for you?
Well, let's just say I love my cast, and I know that there's a lot of mutual love and respect back, and I don't expect anybody to say anything. There's been some, they kind of trickled out and said things here and there, and quieter. But even I think Bill Burr said it. He's like, if I bring her up, I'm going to get canceled. So it was just, I think there's a lot of emotions running around, the last 2.5 years, and it got scary for a lot of people. And a lot of people called me and said, look, I've got a family and I'm so sorry. People that were actors, people that were producers, I got a family. And here I am thinking, yeah, you have a family. You should be talking about this. I don't have a family yet. I finally just got to, I had a show, a promise of a show. But all that to say, I don't really, I don't blame anybody or expect anybody to say anything. So a couple of them have said small things, but I can say though, and I know that I won't ever get to know this until I get the opportunity, but I would have said something on their behalf for sure. I wouldn't have let somebody.
Well, listen, let me
go down like that.
Let me throw a little shade at these people.
No,
yes,
no, I don't want it.
I'm doing it. Well, first things first. These Hollywood pussies never stop telling the story of civil rights movements, and this person stood up and was counted and marched with Martin Luther King and the bridge in Selma, Alabama. They love waxing nostalgic about heroes. She refused. She wouldn't listen. They make movies about Norma Ray and people that are They make all these things, and then when the shit goes down, they can't stand up because that's all they do. Everything you do, you're making a movie and a series about people stepping up and facing danger and putting their neck on the line. That's all that comes out of Hollywood. There's no storyline in The Mandalorian was this guy came along and we were all fucking scared, so we went home. That's not a storyline. So I thought I could get fired. So I left. There's no Hollywood storyline called Big Pussy where it's just like, well, something happened and it was dangerous, so we put our head down and kept walking. No, it's like you step up. It's funny. They overcompensate because in real life, they're such pussies. Everyone in the cast should have stepped up and said something, but the campaign is so effective and you've so effectively wished people into the cornfield who just stood up, whether it's Osborne or it's, I guess, Rose from The Bachelor. Just people who like tried a half-hearted defense of, I know Piers Morgan, he's not a racist, or this guy's not a bad guy. They've got wished out in the cornfield. So the pussies stopped talking. But I would again suggest, and I know we do this thing where you go, you can't expect. I can't expect. I should have expected. I do expect. I expect when Gavin Newsom closes the beaches, we all go to the beach. That's what I expect because it's the goddamn United States.
Yes.
So I do expect a little more out of the cast of the DeLorean. But of course, they're all scared. And they're worried about their families and their jobs. And that's why it continues. That's why it's so effective. Oh, we have my email ready there, Chris?
Yeah, so this is from your old assistant. He wrote, subject line, Monday's History Channel doc shoot. Was just told you will need to take a COVID test on site. Plus, they also want to see your Vax card. And this is the shoot that they're going to do at your studio here. You sent a response. Forward this email to them. Fuck off.
Then he wrote.
And then they wrote back, hey, sorry for the confusion. Our company had asked us to collect vaccinations from participants, but in no way is this required from Adam, especially since he's offered his space as the location. It's a formality. They've asked me to follow, but we've completely understand someone not wanting to provide their record. Please let me know if we can discuss this over the phone. I hope we can make this work.
All right. Well, it never worked. Isn't there a part where Matt said, "Are you sure you want me to send it?"
So there is one person that stood up.
He called you.
Oh, he called my assistant. Called me and went, "Do you really want me to send that email to them?" And I said, "Abso-fucking-lutely."
I wish I would have showed it. I mean, I was going back and forth with emails. Like, I actually was like, listen, I've been fighting this. Like, I've been always a woman who's been strong, who's been, you can't put me in a box. Like, I was like, I can't believe you guys are like, I've done more for this, women in fighting and women in this, this business acting. And, I can't believe that you guys are coming at me. Like, I'm not.
No,
I haven't done that. Yeah.
There is no.
But so one person did stand up.
Who?
There's one person that. So when I went to go do Bear Grylls in the Dolomites, Italy, in November of I think 2021, we just spent a couple of days, and I did all this like crazy stuff, which I'm super afraid of heights, and it was incredible. Well, afterwards they're going to go and put this, I believe, on the Discovery Channel. I think that's where he. His show, but that's owned by Disney. So I was canceled so ridiculously. They took my episode off and wouldn't even air my episode. And Bear Grylls was like,
Grylls.
"This is
yeah."
He said, "This is ridiculous," and he fought for me and he fought for my episode. So they're so catty, like. So when all the other episodes are showing like, who's in them, you can't even see my name. All it says is, I think, episode 6. And, it's because the fans and the people had this big, they saw that it was happening. And Bear Grylls obviously was, he texted me and he said, we fought for you and we got you back on there. So they're just going to cancel my episode altogether, which is, so my final tweet. Yeah, I know this is how aggressive it was. It was so aggressive. Lost my agency, lost my lost my 10-year long relationship with my lawyers. So I had no way of defending myself. I have no way of being like, hey, feels like Disney's and Lucasfilm are like committing a bit of defamation of character. Which I would have pursued that then, because it was, I think, exactly what defamation of character is. And it was all, their final thing was the tweet of neighbors getting along with neighbors. It was just a screen capture, and I put it in a Instagram story. It wasn't even on, I think it was in like the Twitter stories. It wasn't even on like the posts. And they freaked out because I said neighbors, before people became Nazis and before they became all of this, they had to make it okay for you to hate your neighbor, to be okay with letting your neighbor get taken out of their house, to be okay. They started using propaganda and to make you hate your neighbor and to make it okay. Cause I was always wondering, and I'm so fascinated with that time. And I'm, like all those movies just have me in tears all the time. I think about how noble and how beautiful the Jewish people are. And I would just sit there and watch this, like, how did anybody let this happen? Like, if you saw your neighbor being taken away because they were just Jewish, that's why they were getting persecuted. And so when I put that out, I thought that was something that everybody could relate to. I thought that would be something that, don't hate your neighbor. And it ended up being their final straw. And they smeared me as anti-Semitic, which is, I mean, if you know me, like my manager's Jewish. And he said that the first thing I ever said to him was, when he said he was Jewish, that's the only thing that's ever come to my head is like, oh, you're God's chosen people. Like, okay, that's awesome. I don't think about anything else. That's the first thing that pops into my head. So I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be, hopefully it'll make it a really interesting story one day. And I just know through all the cancellations I've seen, people kind of destroy themselves and they become, there's not another outlet. There's not a Daily Wire to give them a movie. They just kind of disappear. And, this mass corporation succeeded on tarnishing this person's name and letting them go into oblivion of, the desert of, filmmaking. So I'm doing everything I can right now to fight against that, to fight against the self-destruction, to fight against, getting bullied, and just kind of find a nice, peaceful place where I can keep doing what I'm doing, because that's all I want to do.
So no lawsuit against Disney or Lucas or any of that? Maybe I should have. Maybe I still can. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations, but I got to tell you, I am not a litigious person at all. I have never sued somebody in my life. I've been sued a few times because if you make money and you live in California, you will get sued if you have a business. I hate lawyers. I hate the system, and I've never been litigious, and I've never encouraged anyone to sue. But I have said to Dr. Drew and attorney Mark Garagos many times, I think the only way a lot of this shit is going to stop is if guys like Kyle Rittenhouse and other folks, Nicholas Sandman and other folks, there's many now, it's growing, start suing. It's like you cannot go on CNN and call me a racist and report facts that never happened, or have, Project Veritas and have FBI guys, bust in my door and take property that I own. Like, at some point, we have to just start suing, not to get rich, but to make you guys stop.
Right. And so this lady, Heidi Heitkamp, who is North Dakota's ex-attorney general, went on Bill Maher and basically said, she did it exactly like this too. Oh, Gina Carano. Oh, or that girl from The Mandalorian. Oh, right. Yeah, she's a Nazi. Oh, and then Bill Maher pushed back a little bit. He's like, well, I mean, she's not a Nazi. She's like, well, she's a white supremacist. And he's like, wow, you can't just go out and call people white supremacists. She's like, well, she hangs out with white supremacists. And I'm like, watching somebody I've never met on this big television show sit there and state as a fact that I am all of these things that I'm a fact not, and me and my boyfriend were looking at her like, this woman knows nothing about me. She's never even, and she works, as for CBS, which is also owned by Disney. So they're all in this like group of like, let's demonize this group of people as much as possible, except for they just picked the wrong person, because I was like, what is she thinking? Like that I hang out with kickboxers I was like, who's the white supremacist that she's talking about? Like, I don't even know. So I hired a lawyer. It cost a lot of money just to send her a letter that said, we think you owe us an apology. I think you owe an apology here. Cause she even said right after she made that statement, and you can look it up. It's, well, now I might be liable for defamation. And I was like, yep, you sure are. So then we sent her a letter. She went back, well, I thought Gina was a fan of free speech. And I thought, and it was just really ugly and snooty. And I was like, here you've got this MMA fighter who didn't graduate college telling an ex-attorney general that she's been inappropriate. She's defamed my character online. She's destroyed herself just by making herself look awful. I'm like, these are the people we're electing. People that don't know how to say sorry. They don't know how to like walk it back and say, yeah, Disney doesn't know how to walk it back and say, yeah, we went a little too far there. And that, this is a bit messed up. Let's apologize. They're so good at telling everybody else to apologize. And yet they don't even try to apologize for a second when they've done anything wrong.
Well,
I talked to Ben Shapiro, by the way, the white supremacist she was talking about, when she said, well, Ben Shapiro was the white supremacist that she was talking about. And I was like, oh my gosh. And this is the odd thing. We got Heidi Heitkamp calling
like
Ben
Kampf.
Shapiro
Yeah,
a white
right.
supremacist.
Oh, they don't even.
I was like, I don't know, man. This is just bad. So as far as like, I'm not a big on suing. I'm not big on that. So of course I didn't pursue that because I just felt like if there was anybody to put a lawsuit against, it would have been, Lucasfilm. And I probably should have, because it really has been so damaging. And so I don't know. I don't know if there's an opportunity to still do that. Apparently Scarlett Johansson like sued Disney, and I think a couple other actresses did as well, just based on them treating them bad and not holding up to their end of the deal. And you don't hear anything about it. And I think once you don't hear anything about it, it means there's probably been a settlement. So I think that we do have to take them to the courts, and I do think that we should start taking that more seriously. Like the people in Canada need to take their government to the court. We need to take these people to court. There needs to be some sort of accountability, because right now they're getting away with murder. They're getting away with it all.
I agree. I hate lawyers, and I hate the process, and I hate litigious people, but sue these fuckers to get them to stop. I'm all for it. And also just cosmically, you shouldn't be allowed, whether you're CNN or Heidi Heitkamp, to get out there and just call people racist without getting out a checkbook if it turns out you were wrong. That's
my word. I was like, if you look, you'll see. If you look up the clip, you can even play it on here.
I remember seeing it. I remember seeing it. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with everyone? And by the way, you know what I mean? It's like the worst.
In my head, I just want to freaking let's put on some fucking gloves and go. Sign this, and I don't even have to sue you. Let's just let me beat the fucking shit out of you, because where I'm from, when you say something like that, let's go then. That would be a delight.
And not the 16-ounce sparring gloves either. We're talking full MMA gloves. Yes, look, the very worst thing you can call a human being is a pedophile in our society. And just below that is racist. And could you imagine 100%. If she was calling you or me or Ben Shapiro a pedophile? You know what I mean? How insane that would be. Or
can you imagine if I just come on your show and I'm like, oh, Heidi Heitkamp, that pedo, and and I say this as it's a fact, she loves to be around children. We all know why,
Right.
I would expect,
It's the most insidious thing you can say about somebody, and then just below that is racist. But for some reason, everyone is on every show calling everyone a racist all the time. And it's like, hey, brother, take it a little more seriously. That's a big charge. Or have something to back it up.
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Like have a story about the black family that lived across the street from me when I was growing up and I burned a cross on their lawn or something. You know what I mean? Like have some instances of racism, you lying fuckers. Sorry, I got animated.
Yeah.
All right. So,
no, me too. Meanwhile, like all of my friends, they're like, you know, when you go on, that's a beautiful thing about a mixed martial arts gym is that, I mean, and this is the gym, like these are the gyms I've been in for the last 20 years. There's no racism in a freaking mixed martial arts gym where you put on gloves and you roll around with people and you're punching people and you have, you know, those are the people that get you to the fight, and they're from every walks of life, Thailand, Puerto Rico, like they're from everywhere. They're from Brazil, they're, you know, and we all are in there sweating on each other, loving each other, supporting each other. Like she just had the wrong, and all these people have the wrong idea of what they think. They don't
even think it, but they don't think it.
It's unbelievable.
That's the sad part is they don't think you're a racist. We have the clip, by the way. It's 34 seconds. So says Chris.
Oh, watch this. Yeah.
I remember it.
I like this picture. Who was the woman in the Mandalorian? What did she do? She liked something?
She was a Nazi.
Oh, that's different, right? I'm thinking of somebody else. Well, she's not a Nazi.
She's a white. She's involved with white supremacy.
You're calling her.
She's called other people Nazis.
Right.
So she's the Nazi.
Okay, everyone's a Nazi now.
Yeah.
She does hang with white supremacists.
It's like a Mel Brooks.
She does?
Movie.
Yeah.
Hangs with white.
I suppose I'm now subject to defamation.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on what your definition of white supremacist is. That also, the goalpost there changed a lot. Used to be a guy.
Yeah. The whitest woman on the planet.
Can you believe that?
It's
Can you believe that?
Again, what if we just swapped out pedophile? Like, what would that, could you imagine in a million years? These fucksticks are so dumb that they've taken the teeth out of being a racist. I've said many times, I've said it for a decade, I said, never been a better time to be an actual racist because you'll get lumped in with me and Gina Carano and Ben Shapiro and Dennis Prager. It'll be awesome.
I know it's even more strange. By the way, I never called anybody a Nazi. I've never called anybody a Nazi. So all of that whole thing that she said, she's a Nazi, she's a white supremacist, she hangs out with white supremacists. All of that was so false. Like I wouldn't even be able to tell you where those people exist in life. They've never been around me.
I would sue her ass.
Yeah.
I really would.
Well, like if there's anybody to sue, it would be the people that started this. And what I think the Lucasfilm people did really wrong was they put out publicly in a statement and on their Twitter, and they said, we no longer are going to work with Gina because she's not accepting of different cultural and religious beliefs or something along those lines. At the most dangerous time in America that you could possibly say that about someone. And it did. It put my life in danger. I had paparazzi outside. I had all sorts of weird military drones. I had stalkers. I didn't have a house at that point that had a gate, so I wasn't in any safe situation. And it's just really like brutal, just absolutely brutal. It was so bad. I'll make a movie on it one day, but it was just so disgusting. And I'm actually glad it happened to me because I know I can handle it. Because if that happened to anybody else, I understand why people, actresses who have worked so hard in their entire life to get to where they're gotten, and this really messed up thing happens, and it all gets just taken away from you in a flash and on a very large scale. It was difficult.
Well, the good news is
now I'm gonna talk about it, and it's over. The terror on the prairie's out.
Ben Shapiro and Daily Wire have swept in with their evil Nazi ways and written checks, and now like a phoenix from the ashes, Gina Carano has arisen. It's Terror on the Prairie. It's available for streaming right now on the Daily Wire, and they just keep growing over there. Amazing comeback, and if you love action and you love Gina Carano and you love kicking ass, or maybe you just hate the producers of the DeLorean or the Mandalorian, I should say, or Disney or all the Lucas or all the cowards over there, then go support it. Gina, I hope to see you in person soon. This is a really interesting conversation. I'm glad you had it with me.
I wish I could be there in person, and I look forward to meeting you as well. You just keep on telling them to fuck off.
I will hold the punch mitts for you any day, my dear. The great Gina Carano, thank you very much. Last but not least, there's the Jordan Harbinger Show, a different kind of sponsor for this episode. The Jordan Harbinger Show is a fan of fascinating podcasts with interesting people. You should definitely check it out. There's an episode for everyone, no matter what you're into. Jordan talks to Scott Adams about persuasion in a world where facts no longer matter. Or you can go inside the dark world of wildlife trafficking. Jordan's been on the show, and we've had him on with Dr. Drew, and he's an interesting guy. You'll always find something useful to apply to your own life, like routine changes to boost productivity, or slight mindset tweaks to change how you see the world. We enjoy this show. You will too. Search The Jordan Harbinger Show. That's HARB as in boy, IN as in Nancy, and GER on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. It's The Jordan Harbinger Show. All right, you go to adamcarolla.com for all the live stuff coming up in Springfield, Missouri, and we'll keep you posted. New York, The Stand, that's July 20th. Just go to adamcarolla.com for the book and everything else. Gina Carano, Terror on the Prairie, and Oliver Bullough, the book Butler to the World, and it is out as we speak. Until next time, it's Adam for Gina and Oliver, and Gina again, and Brian saying mahalo. Now I check to make sure he didn't walk out the gate. I go look around the dog run, ironically, see if he's convalescing. No Phil to be found.
Uh-oh.
Where the hell is Phil?
Is he a planter of some sort?
No. He got back into the Tesla.
Of course.
And so I said to Chris, oh shit, he's in the Tesla. All right, get him out of the Tesla. And Chris goes, he yacked in the Tesla.